ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So today we'll be continuing from text 30th onwards. Jnanam guhyatamam yattat sakshad bhagavatoditam anvochan gamishhyanta kripaya deenavatsala. As they were leaving, those Bhakti Vedantas, who are very kind, poor-hearted souls, instructed me in that most confidential subject, which is instructed by the personality of God itself. So, after spending the 4 months of rainy season in one place and receiving the service from Narada Muni as a son of a maid servant, those great sages who are referred as Bhakti Vedantas, they, instructed Narada Muni, who was actually in the body of a son of a maid servant, into the most confidential subject matter of bhakti or devotional service. So Prabhupada explains that these Bhakti Vedantas, or the sages, they speak strictly in the parampara system. They do not concoct anything new. They speak what is spoken by the Lord. And that's what we see actually even in Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam was originally spoken by the Supreme Lord to Lord Brahma. In the 4 verses, the entire Bhagavatam was spoken by the Lord in the 4 verses, which is known as Chatushloki Bhagavatam. And then Brahma expanded it and spoke it to Narada, the same subject matter. And then Narada spoke to Vyas. And in this way, the knowledge has been coming down. Vyasdev spoke that Srimad Bhagavatam to Shukdev Goswami. Shukdev Goswami spoke to Parishit Maharaj. And in that assembly, also Sutta Goswami was there. He heard it. And Sutta Goswami spoke that to Sridhar Naimisharanya. So in this way, this parampara system is coming down. So Krishna, the Supreme Lord, speaks in Bhagavad Gita and also in all other Vedic literatures. Whatever instruction he has given in Bhagavad Gita, they are meant for the common people, so that they can take advantage of those instructions. Arjun on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he appeared to be bewildered. But actually Arjun was not bewildered. He was put in bewilderment by the Supreme Lord. Arjun, being a Nityasiddha associate Lord, he can never be bewildered. But Krishna made arrangements so that Arjun appeared to be bewildered, and so that Krishna can speak Bhagavad Gita for the benefit of all the common people. And Krishna himself mentions in Bhagavad Gita, he spoke the same signs of pure devotional service to sun god Vivaswan long ago. Imam Vivasvate Yoga Proktavan Ahamavya Vivaswan Manave Praha Manurikshva Ke Brave. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, my dear Arjun, long ago I spoke with signs to sun god Vivaswan. And Vivaswan spoke to his son Manu, and Manu spoke to his son Ikshva. In this way, It says, Evam parampara prapta imam rajarishayo vidu. In this way, the parampara system, the Rajarishis, they were receiving this knowledge. The knowledge was coming down in parampara system. But sakale neham mata yogo nashtapanam. But in due course of time, as things deteriorate in this world, this knowledge also appears to be lost. Savivaya mayatidam yoga prokta puratana. Krishna says, my dear Arjun, I am speaking that same very ancient yoga, the science of yoga, which I spoke to Sun God Vasvan. I am speaking it to you today. Sa evayam mayatidam yoga prokta puratana. The same yoga which I spoke in the past, I am speaking it to you. Because Krishna says, Bhakto Semi Sakachiti, because you are my devotee and you are my friend. Therefore, I am speaking this knowledge to you. So, Krishna spoke to Arjun because Arjun was a devotee and friend to Krishna. He was not inimical towards Krishna. And similarly, the Bhakti Vedantas also, they instruct a person who is not inimical towards the Supreme Lord or his devotees. Because they understand that the Lord's instruction can be understood only by devotees, not by the inimical people. Envious people, they may take the instructions of the Lord, but they will completely screw out some different meaning out of that. A devotee of the Lord, he can take not only the instructions of the Lord in Bhagavad Gita, but he can take any scriptures and he can come up with the appropriate conclusions. Like if you take Bhagavad Gita as it is, right from the very first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada is highlighting devotional service to Krishna is the ultimate aim of life. The verse may be, Kim no Rajina, Arjuna is saying, how can I fight Krishna? And Srila Prabhupada says, this is material disease. Everybody is thinking of their own enjoyment. But the actual purpose is to serve Krishna. Krishna's sense is to be served. One time, one disciple of Srila Prabhupada, one devotee, who was preaching in South India, he came to Srila Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, I met the chief minister of one of these states, southern states. I believe it was Tamil Nadu. So he said he met the chief minister of the Tamil Nadu, or one of the southern states. I don't remember which exactly state. So he said, and the chief minister was expressing his great, anger on Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, oh, really? Yeah, he was saying, your Swamiji, he brings Krishna everywhere. And he's explaining, okay, Bhagavad Gita, everywhere he's saying Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. I understand, Bhagavad Gita is spoken by Krishna. But Ishopanishad, nowhere there is Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada, your Swamiji is bringing Krishna also there. So Prabhupada had a big smile on his face. He said, yes. He said, the business of these rascals is to simply cover Krishna. Where Krishna is saying, Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam shanujya, just surrender unto me. These fools, they would say, it is not unto Krishna, but unborn within Krishna we have to surrender. So where Krishna is so obvious, in Bhagavad Gita, they try to hide him. They try to cover Krishna. And my business is, where Krishna is completely hidden, there also I try to reveal Krishna. So though Ishopanishad, yes, there is no Krishna mentioned anywhere in Ishopanishad. Do you see Prabhupada takes Ishopanishad and every verse of Ishopanishad, Prabhupada says, highlights Krishna. Krishna is the complete whole. Om Purnamadha Purnamida Purna Purnamudachyate. So even though there is no mention of Krishna anywhere, Srila Prabhupada reveals Krishna and devotional service to Krishna as the ultimate goal of our life. And this kind of instruction can be appreciated and understood only by devotees and no one else. Therefore, Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita that this knowledge should not be instructed to those who are envious and not doesn't have sense control. Especially the impersonalists who have no idea of the transcendental form of the Lord. They cannot understand the most confidential message of Krishna given in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna actually makes it so obvious and so clear in many places. Like in 7th chapter, in one of the verses, Krishna says, Avyaktam vyaktimapannam manyate mam abhuddhaya. Avyakta means unmanifest or impersonal. Avyaktam vyaktim apannam. Krishna says, unmanifest or impersonal has become person. Vyaktim apannam has accepted the person form. Manyate, this is considered, this is regarded by abhuddhaya, fools. Fools think that God is ultimately impersonal, but he has become a person now in the form of Krishna or Lord Rama. All these forms are actually, ultimately God is impersonal. That impersonal form has assumed a form now. Avyaktam vyaktimapannam manyate mam abhuddhaya. Krishna says only fools, less intelligent people, they think like this. And yet, the foolish people, they continue to proclaim that Krishna is actually impersonal. And Krishna, makes it very clear in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. That why is it like that? Rajavidya Rajaguriyam Pavitranam Idam Uttamam. Krishna says, this Vidya, this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita is king of all the education, and it is Rajaguriyam, it's most confidential. Because, why it's most confidential? Because it can be understood only by devotees. Because the knowledge about the Supreme Lord is above the understanding of Paramatma and Brahman. It cannot be understood by anyone other than a devotee. So this knowledge is confidential, and it is confidential in the sense that even though everyone can read each and every verse from Bhagavad Gita, but still people will not be able to understand and appreciate the true import of those verses. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada actually mentioned that there are so many editions of Bhagavad Gita before he published the version of Bhagavad Gita. But by reading those versions of Gita, nobody became devotee. As soon as Srila Prabhupada brought Bhagavad Gita as it is, so many people started dedicating their lives to become Krishna's devotees. Why? Because Prabhupada actually mentions in this Srimad Bhagavatam, this Krishna book actually, when Acharya, when a great associate of the Lord, he comes to this world, automatically people start understanding and appreciating the import of the Vedas, which is actually hidden otherwise. But because the associate of the Lord, Nitya, the associate of the Lord, comes to this world, he reveals the topmost wisdom and knowledge from the scriptures in a very simple form, which can be understood and appreciated by everyone. So knowledge of devotional service is actually far, far above the knowledge of Brahman and Paramatma. Srila Prabhupada, that very intricate details of devotional service he gave in his book, Nectar of Devotion, which is nothing but the plain translation of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So this most confidential knowledge, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, he imparted to Arjun. He gave same knowledge to Uddhava also in the Uddhava Gita. And the same knowledge was given to Lord Brahma. As you'll be reading in the second canto of Bhagavatam, Krishna spoke the same confidential knowledge to Brahma also. Text 31. Yenevaham bhagavato vasudevasya vedasam mayanubhavam vidham avidham yena gachanti tat padam. By that confidential knowledge, I could understand clearly the influence of energy of Lord Sri Krishna, the creator, maintainer, and annihilator of everything. By knowing that, one can return to him and personally meet him. So, the confidential knowledge about devotional service, which were imparted to Narada Muni by the Bhaktivedantas, is so potent. One can actually understand Maya Anubhavam Avidham. Now, Maya is nothing but Krishna's illusory energy. So, influence of Krishna's illusory energy can be understood by a person who engages in devotional service of the Lord. So, how to understand the Lord's energies? By devotional service or by the most confidential knowledge, one can understand very easily how the different energies of the Lord are working. One time, one great scholar, his name was, he was a Bengali scholar, his name was Madan Mohan Malvi. So Madan Mohan Malvi, he was a great learned scholar of the Vedic, scriptures. So one time he was reading Vedanta Sutra, and he had some confusion there. He couldn't understand that some statements in Vedanta Sutra. So he had heard in those days that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada, he was a great scholar on the Vedanta and great authority on the Vedanta Sutra. So he went to the Matha, one of the ashrams of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur. And Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur was sitting there, and he said to Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur that I have some doubts on Vedanta Sutra. Can you clarify those? And Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur was busy that time. He said, that disciple of mine, he indicated, who was cleaning the pots that time in the kitchen. He said, you can go to him. He will explain you. He is capable of clearing all the doubts on Vedanta. Because I'm in the middle of something, so I cannot give time. So Madan Mohan Malvi actually, though he was himself a great scholar, taking the humble position, he went to that brahmachari, a young boy who was in the kitchen cleaning the vessels. And he asked him that, your Guru Maharaj told me to ask you this question. I have some doubts on Vedanta Sutra. I want to get those clarifications. And the disciple of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, he said, actually I'm in the middle of cleaning this. So I'll take some time. If you can wait, or if you want, you can help me to clean the vessels. We'll be done quicker. And then we can sit and discuss Vedanta. So Madan Mohan Malvi said, all right. He started cleaning the pots with this brahmachari. Now, Madan Mohan Malvi was actually a greatly, well-known person in those days. highly influential person and very learned scholar. But he took a humble position because he had come as a student, so he actually started cleaning the vessels along with his brahmachari. And while he's cleaning the vessels, he was contemplating on his questions, and he got all the answers to his questions while cleaning the pots. So when the cleaning was done, the student, this brahmachari of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he said, let's sit down and discuss what questions you have. He said, you know what? Whatever questions I had, they were all automatically manifested. I got answers from within while cleaning these pots. So the brahmachari was very happy. He said, you go and you can tell my Guru Maharaj this. So when he went to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he told Bhaktivinoda Thakur that, while I was cleaning the pots, I got answer to all my questions from within. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur smiled and he said, this is our process of understanding Vedanta. We do not simply sit down and study and speculate on Vedanta Sutra. We engage in devotional service of Krishna, and by that devotional service, everything is revealed to us. It's a fact. Simply by engaging in devotional service, all our doubts are clarified. And in due course of time, one is able to understand all the intricate details about everything that matters in devotional service. So material energy, how it works, a devotee understands it. He's not foolish or ignorant of anything. So a devotee, even new devotees, they know this, that this material world is ekpad vibhuti, 1/4 of Krishna's creation. And spiritual world is tripad vibhuti. Srila Prabhupada used to give very simple example. He said, this world is like a prison house. So if you take a city, prison house is just a small, insignificant corner of one city, So similarly, this prison house of material existence is situated in one corner of the spiritual world. And very little, number of, compared to Krishna's Nitya associates of the Lord who live in the spiritual world, very few, very small number actually, lives in this material existence, which is also unlimited. Unlimited jivas live in this material existence, and they are only very small fraction of all the living entities who are part and parcel of Krishna. And so a living entity who is engaged in devotional service, he understands. He understands the material energy. He understands Krishna's marginal potency, which is nothing but living entities. So why there are different living entities with different mentalities in the material world, why living entities exist in the spiritual world with different mentalities. A devotee understands all this with a very, very intricate details. Like if you read Bhagavad Gita, 14th chapter and 16th chapter, you understand why living entities of different varieties they exist in this material world. Why there are 8.4 billion species of life? Because every living entity has a unique desire to enjoy in a particular way. So Prakriti, material nature, provides different bodies for the living entities who are situated in different modes of material nature. So because there is a mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance, and mixture of these three modes creates unlimited shades of consciousness. Unlimited shades. which are broadly categorized in 8.4 million species of life. But there are unlimited shades in each and every species of life. So, so a devotee actually understands why there are living entities with different mentalities because of three modes of material nature. Why some people actually act in a very demoniac way, because that's how demoniac nature works. Krishna explains, in the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the demoniac nature. So, devotee understands how the material energy works. He understands how the living entities function in the material energy within this material existence. And he also understands how living entities have different mentality in the spiritual world also, because of the different rasas, the 5 primary and 7 secondary rasas. So some living entity is inclined to serve Krishna as a servant. Somebody is simply appreciative of Krishna in the spiritual world. Somebody is very intimately related to Krishna as a friend. And somebody has, parental affection for Krishna. The elderly gopis in Vrindavan, they all have, motherly affection for Krishna. And then the young girls of Vrindavan, they have loving attitude towards Krishna, just like a girl has attraction towards the boy. So how living entities are, having the different tendencies in the material and spiritual world, the scientific understanding of that is also known to a devotee. So you understand, the living entities who are serving material energy, they are struggling hard for existence. The spiritual, energies, those who are situated in the spiritual world, the living entities, they are eternally related to Krishna in 5 primary and 7 secondary rasas. Now, who can enter into the kingdom of God? This knowledge is also uh, very much understood or known to the devotees. By the dint of devotional service, one can even enter into the kingdom of God. Krishna, he says in Bhagavad Gita that all conditioned souls rotting in the material existence, they can come back to him by giving up all the engagements in the material world. Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam praja. If a person gives up all the material engagements and engages in devotional service of the Lord, he can go back to Krishna. Why? Because all the engagements in the material world, they are nothing but the cause of bondage. They are all driven by the desire to dominate over the material resources of the material world. And that desire is nothing but manifestation of trying to enjoy being separate from Krishna. Because the living entity has a desire to be separately enjoying, he has so many different shades of desires. And because of those desires, the living entity engages in different kinds of activities, which is karma. And that karma keeps the living entity bound in the material world. So this can be understood by devotees. Only devotees can understand this. And because they understand it, they can take to the appropriate process of unwinding their consciousness, unwinding their efforts from the karma or vikarma. And thus they prepare themselves to go back home, back to God. So here Narmani is giving his own example, that he attained the stage of eternal knowledge and eternal bliss simply by hearing from that great souls, great sages, and following the instructions. And this process that Narmani followed, it's not reserved only for Narmani. It is open for all. The only condition is one must be willing to follow in the footsteps of Narada Muni. Mahajana yena kata samantha. So all one needs to do is just follow in the footsteps of Narada Muni, and one can actually attain the perfection of human life by going back home, back to God. I think we will stop here. If anyone has any questions, you may ask.
Prabhuji, just in the previous slide,